Hello everyone, Tom here at Budo Academy. I would like to thank everyone for their support. We had an incredibly great turnout for our international seminar last month here in Providence, Rhode Island. The reason that international seminars like this exist and why they're successful is because of the support of our distance program that we have. And I would like to personally thank everyone that supports it, or that studies within it. And because of that, we've met so many new friends. We have a new Kenkyukai dojo up in Norway. We have some other action going on in northern New England. We have some other action going on out west. And it's very exciting for us, and I would really like to thank everybody. So today we're going to look at weight transfer, and we're going to look at two completely different waza from two completely different sets. And the first one I want to talk about is a waza called Shihoto. Shihoto is from a Bato Ho set. And what I like to talk about is how you transfer your weight when you're going from one opponent to another. And then we're going to pick on another kata from a different set completely that has some similarities, but you have to work your footwork a little bit differently to be successful. And I think that's where a lot of folks get confused, is with the weight transfer. Okay? So let's look at Shihoto. Shihoto is a scenario where you have multiple enemies around you. And usually you start out 45 degrees to your right, but I'm going to take this and turn this entire assembly, so to speak, for the sake of the camera and the lens. So our first opponent is right here, and we're going to do this movement here, which can be interpreted as several different things. I'm not going to get into the particulars of the techniques, but rather the footwork and the weight balance. So here's our first movement, and then we open up our left hip and strike the opponent on this side, and then we go back to this person over here. Okay? So what happens, and then after that there's a few other things you have to do, but I'm just looking at the first half of this waza, so to speak. So what happens is, after we do this movement here, after we open up the hip, and after we do a thrust, now we have to do a weight transfer, so to speak, so we can move efficiently, because we don't really have a lot of time. So how we do that is we shift our weight slightly this way, not a lot, just a little bit. And I'm going to turn my left foot as I bring my left hand up to grab my sword. That's how I teach this, to teach coordination. If you notice, my foot is moving with my left hand as I'm going up. And at the same time, I'm having weight on my left heel just a little bit, so I can move this other leg now across a bit, so I have a good structure before I do a cut. It's so important to have a good structure on the ground before you do a cut. I can't tell you how important that is here. Okay? So a slight turn with the left foot off the heel, but not a lot. You don't want to bring your toes up. Just a little bit, and then come and cut. And then we do the rest of the waza. Well, if you look at another waza, or a kata that we practice in the sete set, called Shihogiri, to a beginner it's very similar, where you have multiple opponents on different angles. And even the first two movements are really similar, but the weight transfer is very different. And I'll show you what I mean. And again, I'm going to bring the angle of this kata this way so the camera can see it better. So our first movement would be here with Shiho. We take the whole sword and slam down here like this on the opponent's arm, we suppose. Then we open up the sword, again with a thrust, but now we take a step and do a cut. That changes things. With Shihoto, we were staying in one spot and just moving this left foot and then doing a cut. And you'll notice, if you do this slow, if you don't transfer your balance correctly, you're going to feel off balance as you do this cut. And that's a big lesson in these multi-opponent wazas, is maintaining balance when you're transferring your weight. Now let's look at again. So here's our first movement, second movement, but now I'm going to shift my weight to this leg. I'm actually going to push off this foot a little bit, put my weight here, and maybe turn this heel so I can set up a good structure for this cut. And what happens is, when folks practice both of these in one training session or one training day, they do one set, then they do another set. or sometimes we'll practice waza that just have multiple opponents, that sort of thing. There tends to be a little, I call them brain cramps, because when you're so used to transferring your weight a certain way, now all of a sudden things change where you have to release a certain part of your body in order to do that movement. And the only way you're going to do that is transfer the weight without looking like you're transferring the weight. Little exercise you could do with a friend. If you have someone standing right here and they put their hand up against your arm as if you're standing like this, and you try and turn into that person, well, you're going to find, I'll let you do this on your own actually. Turn this foot first, then move, and then turn this foot first, and then move. And you tell me which gets you there with a stronger structure. These are things we study here. These are things that help us with all of our arts, including sword arts. I hope this stuff helps you. It may not, but these are things that we study. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you next time.